Diversifying Boston's corporate scene. It's the topic of public relations executive Colette Phillips' new book called The Includers. The book highlights the role that white men play in the promotions of people of color to the executive level. Colette, thank you so much for being here today.
Good to be here with you.
So let's start with the definition of an includer. Who are they, and how do they add to the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts in the corporate world?
Well, we need allies because when you look at the landscape of who are the people that are in the power positions in business, in government, in sports, entertainment, it's typically white men. Mm-hmm. And so an includer has 7 traits that are consistent across the board. First, they have character. Mm-hmm. They have they understand cultural intelligence. They have connections. They know how to communicate mm-hmm. effectively. Mm-hmm. They collaborate. They also have a commitment. They also have courage. Mm. And these are the characters, these are the traits that includers have. And when you check them out, they all check the box. So people like Bob Rivers at Eastern Bank.
Now, we know that you are a great connector. Let me ask you why you decided to write the book and how you landed on focusing on white men as includers.
Yes. Well, you know, I've been doing this for over 3 decades. I hate to admit that. I started when I was 10.
Yes, both of us.
Yes, exactly. And the more I have been at this, the more I realize that white men can play and have played significant roles. I mean, throughout history, mm-hmm. you think about who were the abolitionists advocating for the abolition of slavery. It was white men like mm-hmm. William Lloyd Garrison and William Wilberforce in England. And that I'm not advocating for white men to be white knights on their horses coming in to save people of color. I am talking about the white men who have been willing to lean in, listen, learn, and to lead from behind, to listen to people of color and women, telling them how they best can be an ally. And they're willing to step out. People like Tim Sweeney at Liberty Mutual, or Ron O'Hanley at State Street, and Tim Ryan at PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are people who have already put themselves out there to be real advocates and allies for women and people of color. And we do need them. We need allies.
Now, the flip side of that is, of course, by the same token, some might argue that white men in power positions can also block and control the progress of successful DEI efforts within their companies.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. That's why we need the white men who do, mm-hmm. because they're the ones who are willing to make those hard decisions to say this is a priority in our company. And I have been working with a lot of CEOs and C-suite executives who understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not about replacement. It's not musical chairs. So when the music stops, if you're not in front of a chair, you lose. It's a Thanksgiving table. And what do we do at Thanksgiving? We expand the table, we add more chairs, everybody has a seat, and everybody gets a meal. Exactly. Now, that's what it is.
What role should allies and includers play in these efforts going around to dismantle the progress that has been made in DEI since 2020?
They have to speak out, speak up, and step out, and do not become victims to this bullying. There are people who have politicized and weaponized DEI and make it and demonize it. Let it seem like somehow, oh, by the way, this is only, you know, the women and the people of color are going to take over, and somehow they're going to like push the white men out, which couldn't be further from the truth. Because what DEI does is level the playing field and allow people on their merit, their abilities, and their skill set to succeed.
Now, you're president and CEO of Colette Phillips Communications, a company that you started when you were 10 years old. And, you know, I know you as a connector. What does the role of being a connector in Boston mean to you?
Well, it means that you lift people up as you climb, you open doors, give people access and opportunity. I like to think that in a lot of ways, when you look at the Boston Magazine's list today, it's extended to 150 people.
And many
Why?
of those were on
Were
your
on
Get
my
Connected
That's
list.
right. You were there when we unveiled the first ever historic list 8 years ago in
Yes.
2016.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that a connector does, and people are constantly calling or emailing or asking, and
you,
it's
you know,
opening
you've
doors.
you've been a part of the important change in Boston through Get Connected, and we
Yes.
just want to thank you for always raising your voice and doing this work. Colette Phillips, thank you for joining
Thank
us and
you
being
for
here
having
today.
me.
Everybody, you got to get this book. It's called The Includers: The 7 Traits of Culturally Savvy Anti-Racist Leaders. Thanks to all